This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
.45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala, read by Sounditavam. Nikini full moon Poya Day falls today. The President reiterates that he will establish an all-party government, giving a just and fair representation to each party representing Parliament. The Sapugaskanda oil refinery would resume operations from August 15th. The 22nd Amendment to the Constitution presented to Parliament. The UAE and Sri Lanka to increase bilateral relations. The final Randoli Parahara of the Temple of the Chutri Lake in Kandy will parade the streets today. In foreign news, Donald Trump refuses to answer questions in New York investigation. Today is Nikini Full Moon Poya Day. Nikini Poya is the second Poya in the Vas season and falls during August. Nikini Poya marks the first Dhammasangayana of Buddhist monks. Nikini Full Moon Poya Day is celebrated centering four important occurrences in Buddhist history. The attainment of arahatship by Buddha's chief attendant, Ananda Mahathera, the commencement of the first Dhammasangayana, convocation to settle the Buddhist canon and pass the Vas, or the commencement of the Vas period by those who had not started the period of sojourn on the Asala Full Moon Poya Day are some of them. The final Randoli Parahara of the Temple of the Chutri Lake in Kandy will parade the streets today. The Randoli Parahara paraded the streets of Kandy from the 7th of August. Following the Randoli procession, the Asala festivities will conclude tomorrow following the day procession. The Kumbal Parahara paraded the streets for 5 days till the 6th of August, while the Randoli Parahara paraded the streets of Kandy for 5 days. The sacred Chutri Lake will be taken to the Asgiriya Gedige Viharaya following the grand Randoli procession. President Ranil Wickremesinghe reiterates that he will establish an all-party government, giving a just and fair representation to each party representing Parliament. The President made these comments during meeting with some of the representatives of political parties held at the Presidential Secretariat. On the All Ceylon Muslim Congress, led by MP Rishad Baduddin, a group of parliamentarians headed by MP Anurapriya Dashanayapa, the SLMC led by MP Rauf Hakim, MPC Vigneswaran's party and the Tamil Progressive Front headed by MP Mano Ganeshan also attended this meeting. The meeting also focused on establishing Parliament select committees with more powers and a National Council as well. The Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara said that after the Sapugaskanda oil refinery will resume operations from August 15th after crude oil shipments sailed in on August 13th. He told Parliament that the first crude oil shipment was due on August 13th and the second on August 29th. Responding to a question raised by the Venerable Athureliya Ratanathera, the minister said there were issues in importing crude oil as international rating agencies have downgraded Sri Lanka. Responding to another question raised by SJB MP Hector Apuhami, the minister said the supply of kerosene to the fishery industry would begin and continue from August 15th. He said the supply of kerosene was limited during last month due to the closure of the refinery, and since the operations are set to get underway, kerosene would be supplied continuously from August 15th. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Scan the Lanka QR code and make your payments with People's Pay mobile payment app from People's Bank.
The 22nd Amendment to the Constitution was presented to Parliament yesterday by the Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa. The Cabinet has already approved the draft proposal of the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution. The amendment was earlier referred to as the 21st Amendment, but is now recognized as the 22nd Amendment, as another draft 21st Amendment has already been gazetted. The Supreme Court had in June determined that certain clauses of the 21st Amendment were inconsistent with the Constitution. The ambassador of the United Arab Emirates, Khalid Nazir Al Amiri, called on the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ali Sabri, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs yesterday. The Foreign Affairs Minister Ali Sabri briefed the ambassador on the current economic situation in Sri Lanka and the tangible action taken so far by the government to increase the resilience of the Sri Lankan economy. The Foreign Minister further invited the UAE to engage in broader cooperation with Sri Lanka in the fields of agriculture, trade and investment. The ambassador congratulated the Foreign Minister on his appointment as the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sri Lanka, emphasized the importance of Sri Lanka-UAE bilateral relationship and assured all possible support to Sri Lanka at this time. The final rites of late announce of the SLBC Harold Fernando will be held at St. Mary's Church Cemetery at 3:30 p.m. on Friday. The remains will be kept for public viewing at Mahinda Funeral Parlour in Vattala from 11 a.m. today. With that, we conclude local news.
Nobody tells time like this. So why do you still pay with cash when you have People's Pay mobile app from People's Bank? Scan the Lanka QR code and make your payments with People's Pay mobile payment app from People's Bank.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Health Ministry yesterday said that another nine COVID-19 related deaths have been reported in Sri Lanka. The Health Ministry said that the latest victims include 5 women and 4 men. They are aged 60 and above. According to the Health Ministry, another 227 people have also tested positive for the coronavirus in Sri Lanka yesterday and came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
A Strength to Your Life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka said that there will be no power cuts today and on Sunday. The PUCSL also said that 1-hour power cuts will be enforced tomorrow and the day after. The 1-hour power cuts will be enforced between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. for groups A to L and P to W. Power cuts have been reduced over the past few days owing to the hydroelectricity catchment areas receiving sufficient rainfall and came to you in Watchlight.
A Strength to Your Life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
On to a bulletin of world news in the headlines. Donald Trump refuses to answer questions in New York investigation. China says Taiwan military drills are over after Pelosi visit. New lung-ear virus infects 35 people in eastern China. Former US President Donald Trump has declined to answer questions as part of a New York State investigation into his family's business practices. Mr. Trump had sued in an effort to block the interview at the New York Attorney General's office yesterday. State officials accused the Trump Organization of misleading authorities about the value of its assets in order to get favorable loans and tax breaks. Mr. Trump denies wrongdoing and has called a civil probe a witch hunt. And after he was pictured arriving at the Manhattan office where he was questioned under oath, Mr. Trump released a statement in which he criticized New York Attorney General Letitia James and the broader investigation. China says it has completed nearly a week of military drills around Taiwan following a visit to the self-governing island by US politician Nancy Pelosi. Sea and air operations were successful, said China's military, which vowed to keep patrolling the Taiwan Strait. Mrs. Pelosi's brief trip incensed Beijing, which views Taiwan as a breakaway province to be reunited with the mainland by force if necessary. Taiwan has accused China of using the drills as practice for an invasion. Scientists are tracking a new animal-derived virus in eastern China that has infected at least several dozen people. The novel lung-ear virus was found in 35 patients in the Shandong and Henan provinces. Many had symptoms such as fever, fatigue, and a cough. They are thought to have contracted the virus from animals. There is no evidence so far Levi can transmit among humans. Researchers detected the virus predominantly in shrews. The discovery was highlighted in a letter written by researchers from China, Singapore, and Australia and published in the England Journal of Medicine this month. One of the researchers, Wang Linfa from the Duke Naz Medical School in Singapore, told China's state-run Global Times that the cases of Levi found so far have not been fatal or very serious, so there is no need to panic. However, Mr. Wang said there is still a need to be alert, as many viruses that exist in nature have unpredictable results when they infect humans. Back to the headlines of the world news. Donald Trump refuses to answer questions in New York investigation. China says Taiwan military drills are over after Pelosi visit. And new lung virus infects 35 people in eastern China. That concludes this bulletin of world news, and on to development news. Steps have been taken to establish a resource centre with information on employment and migration to New Zealand. The High Commissioner to New Zealand in Sri Lanka, Michael Edward Appleton, has mentioned this during a meeting with Minister Manu Shananekara. The minister pointed out that there are a considerable number of people applying for student and tourist visas. The resource centre will provide information to the workers and those who wish to migrate to New Zealand, and came to you in development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Former Sri Lanka cricket captain Arjuna Ranatunga has been appointed as the chairperson of a 15-member National Sports Council. Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe made the appointment. The National Sports Council was earlier headed by former Sri Lankan cricket captain Mahela Jayawardene. And on to soccer news. Karim Benzema continued his Ballon d'Or pursuit with a 324th goal for European champions Real Madrid as they beat Frankfurt to lift the UEFA Super Cup in Helsinki. Carlo Ancelotti's side, who beat Liverpool to win the Champions League in May, took the lead when David Alaba tapped into an empty net, with Frankfurt goalkeeper Kevin Trapp stranded following Casemiro's header back across goal. And on to tennis news. Nick Kyrgios came from a set-down to beat world number 1 Daniil Medvedev at the Canadian Open as Iga Swiatek won comfortably. Australian Kyrgios, 27, lost a first tie-set break but fought back to win 6-7, 1-7, 6-4, 6-2. World number 1 Swiatek comfortably reached the last 16 with a straight set win over Ajla, and the 21-year-old Pole, a two-time Grand Slam winner, won 6-1, 6-2 and will play Brazil's Beatriz Haddad-Maia next. All that came to you in sports news. We'll look at business news next.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Disney will launch a new ad-supported streaming service in the US in December as it overtakes Netflix in the race for paid subscribers. The firm reported 221.1 million subscribers across its 3 streaming platforms at the start of July. That put it just ahead of Netflix, which has been losing accounts. But Disney warned that its loss of streaming rights for cricket in India would reduce its subscriber growth compared to previous forecasts. The firm, which also owns adult television streaming platform Hulu and the sports-focused ESPN Plus, said demand for its Disney Plus product remained strong. That's business news. We look at economic news next.
Business news sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Prices in the US continued to rise rapidly last month, but a fall in petrol costs helped to ease the pace. The annual inflation rate, the pace at which prices rise, was 8.5% in July, down from June when it surged to 9.1%, the Labour Department said. Aside from energy, costs for many items, including groceries and housing, continued to climb. The higher costs have left many families struggling and had a significant impact on the economy. Job growth remains strong, but other indicators like consumer and business sentiment have been hit by worries about rising prices, which are climbing faster than they have since the early 1980s. That's economic news, and on to the weather report to conclude. A few showers will occur in the western and Sabragamo provinces and in the Gaul, Martara, Kandy and Nuwara districts. Mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere. Strong winds about 50 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern and north-central provinces and in the Hambantota and Trincomalee districts. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. Nikini full moon poe day falls today. The President reiterates that he will establish an all-party government, giving a just and fair representation to each party representing Parliament. The Sapugaskanda oil refinery would resume operations from August 15th. The 22nd Amendment to the Constitution presented to Parliament. The UAE and Sri Lanka to increase bilateral relations. The final Randoli Parahara of the Temple of the Tutre Lake in Kandy will parade the streets today. And Donald Trump refuses to answer questions in New York investigation. With that, we conclude this morning's news broadcast.